Welcome everybody. In this video we talk about overview of the global scenario of international trade. First let us look at economic foundations. Now certain countries may have capability in creating electronic components while other countries may have a requirement for electronic components. Likewise, there are certain regions which are strong in supplying software capabilities while there are certain regions that are lacking. So global trade today has reached 33 trillion in goods and 25 trillion dollars in services total. So this reflects the growth in global trade or the supply and demand for various goods and services among different countries. The trade growth for the current year is projected to be around 3 to 3.5% by the World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, and the Organization of the Economic Cooperation of Developing Countries. This varies with the region, with the continent, with the sector. But end of the day, the exchange of goods or the services to meet the demands of certain countries and to find market for the products of certain countries is what lays the foundation for this economic activity. Then there are certain policies and regulations. Now, various governments, various political parties have their own ways of shaping the economy of their country and also impacting the global trade. It could be in the form of tariffs, quotas, subsidies, or trade agreements. These policies or regulatory changes will have certain impact. For example, protectionism in one country or tariffs by that country for imports or prevention by that country of their exports will have a great impact on the way their friends and neighbors buy and sell. It will have a ripple effect on the global supply chain. It could also lead to retaliatory measures by other countries, be it friends or foes, because of the interconnectedness of the trade regulations. Now, the US-Mexico-Canada agreement was a free trade agreement, but that framework had its own strain due to certain policy shifts by the US, due to certain political shifts in Canada, and due to certain actions or inactions by Mexico, which had a strain in their relationship. EU has a single market. Africa had come up with AFTA. So these create sometimes barriers for other countries and sometimes easy way to trade among their members. Overall, globally, it is said that there are over 3,000 different restrictive measures which undergo some change or the other on an annual basis. Then comes the geopolitical factors, geopolitical influences. Trade is not happening in a vacuum. There are certain international relations. Due to political alignment, certain countries are friendly or unfriendly with others. There are conflicts between certain countries or regions. Then there are certain tensions because of the racial and ethnic considerations. These have the capacity to disrupt the supply chain. These will hamper the energy flows. This will hamper the technology flows. This will cause a rivalry for whatever known and unknown reasons. And this has a potential for increasing or decreasing the tariff on certain items. This will fragment the economy, create competing blocks, force the countries to adapt, and then comes the onshoring, offshoring, nearshoring, or reshoring methods that different countries adopt, while certain other countries claim neutrality and then do not cooperate or coordinate or contribute to these issues faced by global trade. Let us also look at how the technology helps. The advancement in technology is really revolutionizing trade in a large way. If the ships can go across the world on gas instead of oil, that will help the environment. That is an improvement in the technology that causes the ships to go. Ships can move faster. New technology that handles the way the containers are handled at the port, The Internet of Things that helps to move the containers or the warehouses or the capacities in the ports, all those things can, in the form of technological help, assist in global trade. There are also digital platforms that help small and medium enterprises to get easier funding. The technology that helps to get credit analysis of these companies done easily and more acceptable fashion so that they become eligible for funding. There is a scheme and scope for streamlining logistics. There is potential for automation of the customs processes. All these things are growing. The Internet of Things in the form of information communication technology related support for trade is growing at about 5%, and this is maintaining the momentum, and so this will reshape how cross-border trade happens in the day to come. The most importantly, the sustainability factors have a very important role in the trade that happens globally. The climate change factor, United Nations SDGs, droughts in certain places while floods in others are all affecting. The EU regulations that has something like a carbon border adjustment mechanism and their discouragement to finance the fossil fuel industry is imposing new cost and new constraints in certain sectors of the trade. Likewise, there is a great demand for the green technology, like for example battery driven cars or solar panels. So these are pushing trade towards more sustainable fashion in which trade is done. Also, if the global physical supply chain is certified to be sustainable friendly, there is a potential for lesser cost in the form of payments to the banks made by the corporates. Going forward and looking at other aspects, there are certain opportunities for trade and there are certain barriers. By trading internationally, the corporates can reach new customers, their market will expand. They have room or compulsion to innovate and adapt to meet the new needs of the new markets. Also, companies and corporates can specialize. They can take benefit of the economies of scale because of their ability to sell to new markets and thereby bring in effective efficiency. For the consumer, it is raining goodies. Why? Because from across the globe, a consumer can get at a competitive price better quality, better variety of the various things that he can dream of. Most importantly, the opportunity in global trade in the form of knowledge transfer, because trade facilitates exchange of ideas, innovations, best practices across borders. Companies go and establish a joint venture or a subsidiary in a new country to take advantage of the economic benefits and transfer the technology by local manufacturing. Looking at the challenges in the global context, cross-border trade, though it continues to grow and though it is slower than expected, it is reaching record-breaking levels. 25 trillion in goods, 7 to 8 trillion in services, total 35 trillion in 2024 is not a small number. Now, going forward, what are the things that will affect in the near future is most important is the US trade policy or the tariffs, because these tariffs will affect allies and rivals in the same way, and end of the day maybe the US customer may end up paying for this higher cost on the goods. The proposal for broader tariffs and for many more varieties of goods from many more varieties of countries, if it is impacting, then there is definitely the trade could slow down and it will have escalation potentially on other relationship aspects also, and this is a significant disruptor. Shifting supply chain is also one of the influence that will be happening in the near future, because certain countries would like to have certain proximity to certain geopolitical regions to manage the risk. Certain countries are insisting if 51% local content is available, it will be considered as a local manufactured, or else it will not be considered as a local product. The regional highlights are that the US, Canada, Mexico relationship is undergoing a change. The EU is realigning their relationship with the member countries after the Brexit. In Asia, China's growth is decelerating in spite of a lot of money being pumped into the economy for growth. In Africa, the African continent free trade is faster than expected. Latin America, Brazil is helping the BRICS to grow than the way it was. The main challenge is protectionism because many countries are coming up with ways and means of protecting their domestic industry, and this is causing inflation and cost because even if general inflation is easing, because of this protectionism the costs are going up in addition to the cost of shipping companies and the cost of complying with the local regulations. The currency fluctuations are also not predictable because of the geopolitical reasons. And the world is now today not a big global village but a fragmented pieces of blocks because of the realignment due to political reasons. But this is not the end of the tunnel because in spite of all this regulatory complexity, economic dependence and environmental impact, there are various opportunities to be made in trade. One is the emerging markets are there where the middle class is growing and so there is a demand. Second is technology, from AI to blockchain to automation to digitization, it is bringing everything closer. Logistics is becoming easier, customs process is becoming smoother, and there is a reduced friction. And then different sectors are growing at different points in time, like apparel or electronics or green technology, and which are offering riches for certain countries and niche for certain corporates. How trade happens is, or why trade happens is what we will now look at. Why is because your need or the capability to access resources and goods, because you have a comparative advantage to make it at a cost lesser than others. You have capability to scale up and earn the economies of that. You are looking for diversification and risk management when going to different product or a different market. You have a technological edge, or you have political and strategic alliances because of which as a country or as a corporate you are able to enter a new market. How? Trade happens in the form of a direct trade or direct trade agreements. Then you have a world trade or GATT. Then you have a global supply chain where corporates are capable of, for example, securing certain components from Vietnam, certain components from Taiwan, assemble them in China and sell it in Japan. Then there is a foreign direct investment where certain companies invest in another company, set it up from green shoe, and then roll out the product. The trade finance and the supply chain finance offered by the banks and financial institutions also make trade possible. The logistics and shipping industry, the insurance industry encourage trade because without them no goods will move or no service will be guaranteed. Then comes the digital innovation. It is not just AI, it is not just blockchain, it is not just machine learning. Even otherwise, the disruption caused by the innovation in this area is helping small and medium enterprises to trade globally. Thanks for watching this video. We will catch up again in another one.